everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's Coping Together. My name is Faith, and I work with the Mental Health Association of Central Florida. Today's topic is really discussing the return to school in fall of 2020. And with me to talk about that, I've actually brought back one of our wonderful guests from a previous episode, Dr. Eugenia Agard with Hugs Therapy Services. How are you doing today, Dr. Agard?
I'm well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be back. I really appreciate it. And this forum is so needed. Our community really needs to hear this information that you guys are providing. So thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you again so much for being here. And so I guess I'll really start, school has started for a lot of people, or it's about to start, whether it's grade school, college, middle school, high school. We are still having to continue with our normal lives because COVID's been going on a little bit longer than I think we all originally anticipated. So with that, that e-learning or in-person, whatever model someone decides to use, there's a lot of questions and concerns people have about their children's mental health, their own mental health, and how these new dynamics are going to impact everybody. So I want to kind of start and ask you about one thing that I've heard and that from what I understand that some parents have a concern about in virtual school is how to maintain and obtain the socialization aspect that they usually get from face-to-face interaction. Can you, talk a little bit about some alternative options of socialization maybe?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So that is a concern. That is a major concern when your children are not in school, because we do know that school serves many purposes. People are, you send your children to school for education, but there's a beautiful spillover effect, which is the social piece, the nutritional piece. Like some children don't eat food; they're below the poverty line. So if they don't go to school, they don't eat. So it does. It also serves that purpose. But in terms of socialization, this is where our children learn social skills. This is where they meet their friends, and sometimes they're lifelong friends. Like some of us even have friends that we had from childhood. So right now we see a disturbance in how the socialization process actually connects now. So it's important for us to realize that that is having an effect on our children, both emotionally and mentally. And so we want to make sure we're able to give them the tools that they need. So some of the things that we can do for our children that are homeschooled or will begin to do virtual learning is to make sure there's an outlet outside of the computer. We have to make sure that we are providing some kind of mainstream where they can connect. And there are different ways to do that. So now we have Zoom that we can use, which is very popular now. Zoom has been around for a while, but we didn't really utilize it as this way.
Yeah.
And so, yes, right? And then there's also now Google Hangouts as well that you can go in there. Of course, on our cell phones, we have many of our cell phones have the app where you can do the FaceTime. And I believe there's also some app on the Samsung device. Of course, we can also look into activities for them in addition to activities on the phone where they can interact with their friends. They can also go into portals with their friends and do activities. You can do drawing. They depend on the child's age, of course. It should be age appropriate. But they have Play-Doh time. They have learning time. They have cooking time where you can watch videos and just get involved. Like you can have your ingredients. They can tell you ahead of time, hey, have these ingredients. We're going to mix it up together. And so you feel like you're a part of the whole dynamic. We're all doing it together. So it's a matter of being creative. I also want to share that there also is virtual tours that are they're wonderful for anyone. Since we can't really get out the way we used to, well, I'm recommending virtual tours. You can go virtual tour to zoos. You can do the drive-through the zoo. You can do the safari. There's museums. There's natural historic landmarks that are now virtually. They have people in there that are videoing as if you're there, and you actually feel like you're part of that environment. So anything that will help, that is important. So that's the key.
No,
Find
absolutely. And so if you don't mind me asking, because I've actually not heard of a lot of that, how would someone find access to that? Would it be just from Google or?
Yes. So a good way, of course, is thank God for the internet. Everything's at our fingertip at this point. So we can go and Google. There's things actually on the school site too, on the website for the different school districts. They have things. I know Orange County Public Schools also has a list of activities because they want children to be feeling like it's a normalized situation right now. At least some portion can be. as much as possible. So you can go on the internet, you can look at some school sites, and if you like, I can also put some things in later for you, and you can insert them in, and I can give you some links as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That all sounds wonderful. And I think that I appreciate you, kind of giving that information because I think a lot of us have been so um, what's the word, kind of cornered and felt trapped by the limited options that we knew of. And so I think just getting that information out there is so helpful. So absolutely, if you want to be able to provide me with any of that, I'll make sure to all of you that we'll have that access to that, whether it's links or however, because we do want to help get that information out there.
Yeah.
And so that leads me into, going back to school, a lot of parents have had to make a decision about whether or not, depending on the county, if they want to send their children back face to face, if they're going to do virtual. Why might some parents elect to have their children learn at home?
Well, that is such a really curious topic right here. First, if we just look at what's happening in the world and then look at what's happening in America specifically. In America right now, we've had 50,000.1 million Americans contract the virus. Okay, that's only America we're speaking about. And out of that, 165,000 Americans have succumbed to this virus. That is very alarming. It's extremely alarming because we didn't think that we would be here. A few months ago, we were not here. And we actually reopened up America and we actually saw a surge in numbers after we did that. So there's great concern. In fact, if you look at the statistics, if you do the math, we'll find that with those statistics, every 80 seconds, someone dies from COVID. And I need people to realize that that's not a number. That should just be looked at as a number. Those are actual
That's a
lives.
person, yeah.
Those are real people. And so when you really think about what this means and who that affects, this is affecting people. Maybe you have experienced it, maybe you have not, but this has touched many lives, whether they have a close family member, an uncle, a cousin, a mom, a dad, someone significant has died. And it has changed the trajectory of how we function, how we process, how we cope in this society. So again, as I said it from the last meeting with you guys, is that COVID-19 is not just a physical issue, it is a mental health issue. So with that being said, with with the statistics in the beginning, I believe you recall from the first meeting, when this first came out, we thought that this was not going to touch the children. We believed that children were not, they were almost immune, is what they were telling us, right? We were hearing that children are immune, that they're not getting this virus, and they're safe. So we know that's a little different now. Over 300 children in the US, over 300,000 children already have contracted the virus, right? And if we look specifically at our state of Florida, we're the second highest state for children contracting the virus. Right now, as of, well, it's probably gone higher, but right, the last statistic that came out, we were at 28,000 children, 14 and under, that have contracted the virus. That's very alarming, very alarming. And it's a contrast to what we believed before. So that's why there are some real issues and real problematic concerns and dialogue of too open, not open. So what I do like is the fact that the school district knows the seriousness of the thought process of, should we bring our children back to school? Should I allow my child? Should I homeschool my child? Am I putting my child at risk? So what we find, which is really good in terms of uniqueness, is the school districts have worked so diligently day and night to try to problem solve. So what they have created is three options for our children. And so you can, if you feel comfortable with home, letting your children go to school for whatever reason, then you have that option. Their schools will be open. And right now in the state of Florida, we do know that 30%, based on those people who enrolled, you have to decide what you're doing with your children by a deadline. So based on that information, we know that 30% have said they're comfortable, or at least they're going to send their children to school for different reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, what happens to the other percentage of children? They have an option.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have an option, which is great. The option is either they can go to virtual school, which virtual schools have been around well before COVID. It's just something that children had an option because everybody doesn't do well in the same educational setting,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So they have another option. So now there's a big need, there's a large need for children to go into that kind of academic setting. But now we also have what the schools have done, which is almost a hybrid system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you can go to school virtually, meaning that if you had this Miss Johnson or Mr. Jeffer for the teacher, you're going to still have that teacher. But now you're going to see your teacher virtually, like the way we're doing it now. You
Mm-hmm.
see your teacher, and you're actually going to follow the bell. So whenever your period is supposed to end, you go to the next class. So they're trying to remain, keep that same structure of the school setting virtually. The children have to log in, and they have to sign in as if they were in school. Attendance is taken.
So they're
You're,
being held to that same standard expectation, and I agree with you. Returning to some semblance of normalcy in this new adjusted reality. Um, and I really appreciate you kind of elaborating on that. And I want to take you for a moment and ask you, you definitely have identified, I think we both have identified that protecting children right now and their physical health is so important. And you also touched on the mental health aspect as well. And so one thing I've noticed, and I think a lot of people have noticed, is that the social media consumption has gone up. And for kids, it's really a way they've been able to stay connected to their peers. And during COVID, that social media has, whether it's Snapchat or TikTok or Facebook, it's been a form of entertainment and it's been a way of social engagement. But is there a point where, for our children's physical and mental well-being, like they need to step away from that, maybe like make sure that they're not just always in front of a screen, because they are getting virtual school, they are doing these virtual options? Is there a point where maybe it almost is a little bit too much virtual?
yes, Faith, that was such a great question because our children are being, and they will be further once they start the virtual school, they will be inundated with computer, on the computer. And look at us now, look at our posture. Our posture, where, it's not good when you're on the computer. We're doing hunch over, we're doing all types of things. Our hands, when we're on the computer, we're doing this, we're in this position. That is not good. So our
Yeah, you're all
neck.
crunched up.
Exactly. Absolutely. So our necks, our backs will feel the impact of this. Also, not only that, but it's creating stiffness. It can lead to headaches. Also, because the lighting on the computer, we have flickering, especially the kids playing games. They're
Yeah.
flickering, right? So it does something here in our brain, and it helps us reduce our melatonin, which is needed for sleep. So it interferes with our sleep. So we definitely don't want the children on the computer so late because it will cause sleep disturbances. And that's very important for people to realize because we don't realize that. So it creates issues. Also, we become sedentary. Sedentary leads to weight gain,
Yeah.
right? And so inactivity is not the best because when you're on a computer, you're just moving this, and we're not being active. So absolutely, I agree that we do need to take a pause and move away. There should be a dedicated time when you are on the computer and a time when you're off, and it has to be a significant amount of time. We have to be able to enjoy moving. We have to get moving. We
Whether it's walking, riding a bike. I know some places, again, depending on the county, depending on the individual companies, have returned to doing sports, socially distanced, things like that. So it's just finding something that works for you or works for your child.
Absolutely. And stretching, please. When you have the computer, stretch. Grab your doorknob, the door edge, the framing, and just stretch. Stretch those bones because, as you said, we're stuck, we're stiff. And it's true. Move that body. You know, move the body. Even when you're working on your workstation, all of us, we're working at home now. We have to find ways to stay healthy.
Yeah, I think you make an excellent point that it's not just about the mental health, the physical. It's about the strain that just sitting in this position takes on your body, takes on and on your mind as well. I think we get so caught up in the video games, in the virtual school, we don't feel the need or the want to go outside. And we're in Florida, and it's really hot.
Yeah,
I think for me, the only reason I end up going outside is to walk my dog, but I force myself to go walking with her, and it gets me moving. And for kids, maybe it's riding the bike, maybe it's playing basketball a little bit, or something that
yeah.
works for them.
Doing something. Get walking. Walk, 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 walk. very good ideas.
All right, thank you. And so one thing we've talked a little bit about the teachers and this new dynamic that they're facing. For some of them, they're balancing all of it, face-to-face, virtual, hybrid, what have you. And so for parents and teachers, how can they best support the children and students in terms of easing their anxiety? And those of us who are close to teachers, what can we do for them right now?
Yes. Well, this is a tri issue, meaning everyone you just mentioned, parents, teachers, and the children are all in the same category. We're all dealing with this COVID. There's no one outside of this frame that's not dealing with COVID. We all, right? So everyone experiences different stressors in that. So parents are trying to make decisions of doing the best for their children. Of course, parents want to make the right choice, whether it's send their kids to school or to homeschool or whatever the options are, virtual school. They want to make the right choice. They don't want to have the situation where, oh my gosh, I sent my child to school and now my child became sick, or brought the sickness home to a family member who's elderly or a family member who has a pre-existing condition. So they want to make the best choices. So they're going through their own mental health, stressors where they're wondering, am I making the right choice? Do I have to make this choice? Sometimes they have to make the choice because it's financial. Maybe they really don't want to really send their children to school, but there's a reason they have to. There's other things that have to be done in the home in order to protect their children. They have to also provide for their children. So which one weighs? What do you do?
Yeah.
And so they have that stress. Then the teachers, they have that stress because they want to do what's best for their students, and they want to set up parameters in the classroom and make sure that the kids are okay. They also want to safeguard themselves because remember, our teachers are also parents. Many of our teachers are also parents. And so they're facing the same dilemma. They're also wondering, if I go into the classroom setting, am I also putting myself at risk for contracting something from either another teacher or from a student? Remember, this virus, you can be asymptomatic. So the schools are going to do everything they can while they're going to scan your forehead. They're going to make sure you don't have a fever, you don't present to have a cough or any, ailments that describe a cold that look like a cold, but it could be the virus. They're
Yeah.
going to do all of that safe checking. But remember, those people are asymptomatic, meaning they have no symptoms. So teachers are in the classroom setting not knowing how they're going to be able to be healthy, right? So they have those stressors. And then our children, regardless of whatever setting they're in, whether they're home, if they're home or if they're in school, they have tremendous stress now because nothing is normal. It's not normal. If you're at home, it's not normal for you because you're in front of the television or the TV, whatever you use as an apparatus or a computer screen to use as a monitor for the schooling. So that's not normal. And then when the children begin to go into school settings, do you realize that we're going to have steps like when we go into the store now, do not cross this line, 6 feet this way, 6 feet this way. There's going to be parameters. You can't touch your friend. You can't share a pen. Before you used to share pens, multicolors, share stickers, trade things off and explore, go in your friend's purse
I
and
was just thinking of the kindergarten single file line and how everybody would get really close in the single file line. And it was a big deal to be the line leader. And even just that aspect of life that I think is really important to kids. It's just different. And so we're all having to adjust to that. And it sounds like what you're saying is that, and I agree with you, that there's a point that we also have to give ourselves a break, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a child, like, remember that this is an unfamiliar situation and everyone is doing the best they can. And if you're making the decision for your child financially, physically, whatever it might, your reasoning might be, it's okay. And that's my alarm going off.
and to highlight that, just to highlight that, I would love for people to respect another person's decision because all parents are doing the best, as I said earlier, for their children. And you may not agree with someone sending their child to school, and you may not agree with someone deciding that that's not an option for me, virtual is an option. Let's have peace on whatever that decision is for that family. We can't decide for other families. So that's what I really want to see, and I hope that's conveyed. that we need to really begin to respect other people's decisions because we don't know what's going on in their home life. And of course, all of this is causing some mental stress. And so at least we don't need to get stress from others attacking because you have made a decision to do one thing where they may not think that's a good idea.
I think that was a really wonderful point to make. So thank you for making that because it is important that we're all, not just giving ourselves a break, but being understanding and considerate and empathetic to what everyone else is going through right now. And so I do want to bring us back. We're running close to our time. So I have one more question for you, and I really just appreciate your time. But COVID affects everybody, whether it's physical, emotional, whatever it might be. It's shifted our lives, and so for parents, a lot of what parents are seeing is their kids having a natural emotional reaction to losing certain things. For the class of 2020, they lost their graduation. People have lost prom. These cornerstone moments to your childhood. And so, it's understandable that kids have these depressive anxiety symptoms, but how would you discern, or could parents discern between when it's a child's normal response and expected emotional response to maybe there might be, a emerging mental health issue going on? What should parents look for in that?
Sure. Excellent question, and that's something that we really need to focus on. So basically, we definitely need to look at our children. We need to have conversations with our children. So if we didn't have communication with our children, now is more the most important time to start initiating that conversation and that communication with our child. We have to first be honest about what to expect, especially if they're going back to school. We want to have them have some expectations of the changes in the classroom setting, the distance that will be implemented, the rules, the walking in the hallway, not being able to say hi to your friend. Maybe your friend is reacting a different way to you saying hi to them. Maybe they're hypervigilant now about somebody coming near them. And so that can create depression, that can create anxiety in the child thinking, well, what happened to my friend? Or perhaps maybe some of the children are in school and they're the only ones homeschooling or at school at the virtual learning remotely, and they see that their other friends are in and they're the ones out. Again, that can create some depression, some anxiety that they're feeling left out. So how do we learn if our children are experiencing some depression or some anxiety? Start watching their behavior, monitoring how they're functioning. Do you notice that they're sleeping more or sleeping less? Are they experiencing insomnia, hypersomnia? What is happening? Also look at the appetite. How is the appetite? We also notice that children sometimes can overeat because they're coping by eating, and then sometimes they're just not eating. They just have no drive to eat, right? Also notice behaviors. You know, are they becoming irritable? Are they becoming sad? Are they lethargic? Like start watching the mood. Are they interested in things that's going on in the home? Are they pulling away? Are they withdrawing? You know, you have to be attentive to your child because sometimes they won't share. They don't even know what's going on, but they know that they don't feel the same. Something's
Mm-hmm.
wrong. So it's very good for parents to really watch. And if they feel that their child is having some situation or feeling that they're really having a lot of anxiety or they feel like they're going through some type of depression, then it's no problem to reach out and ask for services. There's so many providers now offering services, and we want to help. We want to be there for the children to help normalize what's going on and also listen to what they're saying and letting them know that those emotions are real. You know, what they're feeling is real. It is a scary time. It is an uncertain time right now. And try to give them the tools that they need to help them cope through this because we don't know when this is going to end. So the answer is yes, be very aware, open up the chains of communication with your children and yourself. As parents, we don't have all the answers, right? So we have to let our children know we're going through this just like you, but I'm here for you if you need me. Come to me and let me know how you're feeling. You're not by yourself, and mom's not going to judge you if you feel a little worried or concerned. Share that with them. Let them know that you're there. So we have to be more embracive about those needs and those concerns.
Right, like they don't need to feel like they need to keep it to themselves because mom's already got a lot going on with work and I don't need to add to her stress. And I think that's common for kids, at least, some kids to feel like they don't want to add to their parents' problems. So I appreciate you saying that for sure. And so, let's say that a parent does identify or they have that gut feeling that something might be wrong. What steps would you recommend they take from there? How do you approach it with your child to talk to somebody or, what do you do about that?
Okay, the first thing is definitely seek support. They can contact this agency and you can give them a list of providers. They can also go online. Again, Psychology Today has a wealth of that are available. They can contact, there's so many resources. There's suicide hotline, not that they may be that extreme, but then there are cases where they're really concerned. If it's that high of a risk, then you would want to go dial 911 or take your child to the nearest facility. There are behavioral health services in every county, 24 hours a day. You will never have to worry about not having a place to bring your child if you feel it's imminent and urgent. Please do not hesitate to bring your child to a facility. But if it's not, but you just see that there's some concern, please look for a therapist. Look for a therapist, and there are so many therapists waiting to help your child.
I think that you definitely made, kind of close on a great point. And I thank you because you threw our organization in there. But to kind of add to that, yes, so the Mental Health Association is here to help you, to help your children, whatever it is, whatever age. We are happy to talk to you, learn a little bit about, what you're looking for. We want to help you find what works for you, what works for your child. So it sounds like the general message I'm getting from you is pay attention, listen to your child. If you think something's wrong, don't be afraid to ask them, are you okay? And, don't be afraid to be aware of those other options. You may not necessarily need, hopefully, you don't need the suicide hotline. You don't need the 211, anything like that, but it's there if you need it. And so I really appreciate you, elaborating on that, giving us these points, and ultimately coming onto the show. So thank you again for being here.
You're welcome. One thing for the young children, this one I don't want to forget this.
Yeah.
Young children who don't really express themselves, they can go online and pull up a feelings code or feeling faces, and it shows happy, sad, anxious, worried, and it's like smiley faces or sad faces. And they can go to those cards and ask their children, how are you feeling? This is for the young ones who can't really verbalize, and kind
Mm-hmm.
of monitoring how they're doing along the way, because that will give us insight if there's starting to be a change. I also do ratings. How are you feeling today on a scale of 1 to 10? And then start noticing what's the difference, what's the decline. 10 would be very well, 1 would be down here, and kind of monitor them. And that's a really good way to be effective, to see, oh, they're starting to slide or things are getting better.
I think, yeah, it was definitely a good point to mention, especially with young kids who, or, kids who may have a disability and aren't as good at verbalizing or aren't able to verbalize what they're feeling. And so thank you for touching on that as well. And again, thank you for coming on the show and answering my questions. Thank you to all of you for watching, as always. We will be back next week with another segment. If you have any questions, any topic ideas, please reach out to us at the Mental Health Association of Central Florida. Please feel free to check out, that's my alarm again. Please feel free to check out Dr. Agard and Hugs Therapy Services. She is a wonderful individual who, like she said, there are so many therapists that want to be there for you right now, and so many therapists that have accommodated this new dynamic and virtual therapy. So thank you again, Dr. Agard. Thank you to all of you, and we'll see you guys soon.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.